We're never pleased with how we appear when it comes to our bodies. Whether you want to look smaller or bigger, you want to try all you can to improve your appearance. Here are 10 bodybuilders that went too far with their insatiability. Trevor Smith. Trevor Smith wasn't interested in competing professionally, although he was well known in the bodybuilding scene. Instead of competing on stage for rewards with his fellow strong guys, he opted to publish articles, coach, and manage his own bodybuilding company, Nuclear Nutrition. He went so far as to develop a program called Beauty Failure Training. Apart from all of his other accomplishments, he was noted for being excessively large. Trevor was 6 feet tall and weighed more than 400 pounds. Regrettably, he did not follow the proper procedures in order to reach that level of success. He not only overworked himself, but he also utilized drugs to boost his stature. The added weight wreaked havoc on his internal organs. This means he was placing pressure on his heart without realizing it. He passed away in 2004 after a heart attack. Andreas Monster. People use steroids to make themselves appear larger and get the respect of other bodybuilders. Steroids aren't, however, the only drugs on the market that make you feel like you belong. Diuretics are commonly used by bodybuilders to achieve muscle definition by removing water from the body and dehydrating it totally. This supplement has the effect of shrinking the skin and tissues on the body's surface. It transforms men into colossi and reveals their anatomy. Andreas Monster followed this method but went one step farther by losing all of his body fat. This resulted in a muscular definition that had never been seen before. Despite the fact that his size helped him win numerous tournaments, it also contributed to his collapse. His organs began to deteriorate as a result of his continual exposure to harmful substances and an improper diet. After he complained of acute stomach discomfort, he was taken to the hospital. Multiple organ failures ensued, eventually leading to death. His enormous heart, which was double its normal size, was the saddest part of it all. Sally McNeil. Sally McNeil was not a particularly talented bodybuilder. During her time in the Marines, she won several armed services physique contests. Despite her use of steroids, she did not win any medals. This didn't exclude her from the typical adverse effects that would have occurred in her situation. They were so terrible that on Valentine's Day in 1995, she shot and murdered her spouse, a fellow bodybuilder. Her counsel claimed that she was a victim of domestic violence who killed her spouse in self-defense during her trial. Her late husband's defense, on the other hand, had a stronger case. They were able to show the judge that she had a history of anger and violent outbursts dating back to her first marriage. They mentioned incidents in which she assaulted innocent persons, assaulted a police officer, and assaulted a defenseless bystander. She had steroids in her bloodstream, according to tests. She was eventually convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 19 years in jail. Chad brothers. It doesn't matter how hard you try to combine exercise and drugs, they never come together. There would always be a negative effect on the body due to a counter-interaction. At a Gold's Gym in Colony, New York, the Chad brothers tumbled off a treadmill. The first response was to go on a rampage and smash the gym and office equipment. They even went so far as to assault other patrons. When police arrived at the gym, they used a taser on the lads. When one of them was about to be handcuffed, he seized the taser and fought back. He was tased twice more as the battle progressed. He was apprehended and cuffed owing to the intervention of 6 additional officers. It was later determined that he had PCP and steroids in his system when he was transported to the hospital. Greg Valentino. Greg Valentino was known for having the largest arms among the most despised individuals in the bodybuilding world. He didn't try to bulk his entire form, unlike other professional bulkers. He was more concerned about his arms. Despite the fact that he was able to gain weight while exercising organically, he remained unsatisfied. He desired more from sports. He began using steroids and testosterone, which caused his arms to expand to a whopping 27 inches. He was thrilled at how quickly his arms grew in size. This provided the impetus to keep going. Valentino became so engrossed in injecting steroids that he neglected to replace his needles. He didn't sterilize his needles and continued reusing them. This, along with the fact that he was hit with a baseball bat, resulted in an abscess in his arms. Rather than seeking medical help, he decided to treat the wound himself. When he couldn't get the abscess to go away on his own, he went to the hospital, where the doctor sliced his arm open to clear it out. Fortunately for him, it all only resulted in a huge scar on his arm. Dean Warmby. Dean Warmby was an English bodybuilder who used steroids for the majority of his life. His body was amazing, with over 240 pounds of muscle. It didn't take long for the consequences of his decisions, though, to become apparent. It manifested itself in the form of liver cancer. In 2010, he was diagnosed with liver tumors, and by the time he died in 2015, he had transformed from a muscular monster to a bedridden warrior. After his death, an investigation found that the steroids and other medications he used to stay large were the main cause of his death. Charlotte, his companion, told the press that she assumed he took steroids since his muscles were so large, but that he stopped using them once they married. When he became unwell, he stopped using steroids and turned to natural remedies to get better. He consumed about 200 natural cure pills every day before he died. If he had quit while his liver wasn't harmed, these natural therapies could have worked. Romero Dos Santos Elvis. Despite the fact that Romero Dos Santos Elvis may be described as a bodybuilder, he never built anything. This is because he doesn't spend his time lifting big weights and drinking protein shakes. He injects synthol, a unique oil that artificially enlarges muscles, into his body. His obsession with enormous muscles, as you can see, cost him his health. Elvis's addiction has caused him agony since the poisons in the oils were endangering his kidneys. Despite the risks, he continued to inject himself until standard needles were unable to pierce his muscles. Instead of quitting, he bought veterinary needles similar to those used in bulls and kept on. His muscles soon grew too tight, and the agony became intolerable. The physicians cautioned that amputation of his arms was his only choice. Fortunately for him, he did not reach the point of no return before renouncing his addiction. Ruben Azu. Ruben Azu, a 300-pound bodybuilder, was detained by police in Colton, California, when they discovered him sitting naked. They said he was under the effects of steroids and had other narcotics in him. He'd just gotten home from a party, but instead of going inside, he sat on the porch of a couple. The couple were concerned for his safety and attempted to contact the authorities. The individual they were trying to aid responded with a quick opposition and assault. They were both seriously hurt in the process, with the male suffering significant brain damage as a result of the beating. The woman was pushed around by the madman and sustained face injuries as a result of her ordeal. When the cops came, it required the involvement of 4 policemen with stun guns and 4 sets of handcuffs to keep Azu in check. If it had merely been booze he'd consumed that night or had been carrying with him, he would not have reacted in such a violent manner. He was taken into custody and charged with attempted murder. Mustafa Ismail. Mustafa Ismail is an Egyptian bodybuilder who followed in Greg Valentino's footsteps by focusing solely on the arms. He was determined to set a new world record and was lucky enough to succeed. His biceps were approximately 31 inches wide, making them the world's largest at the time. He employed various artificial ways to achieve this size, according to the probe. His record was deleted from the Guinness Book of World Records because he cheated. He's rumored to be a devotee of synthetic lubricants that bulk up his biceps unnaturally. Despite his denials, it's difficult not to trust what others claim. Greg Kovacs. Greg Kovacs is a native of Canada's Niagara Falls. He is a professional bodybuilder with impressive stature. He stood over 6 feet tall and weighed over 330 pounds during contests and 400 pounds during the off-season. His arms were 25 inches, his chest was 70 inches, and his legs were 35 inches. In his heyday, he was said to have had over 27-inch arms. He was featured on the cover of Flex magazine in June 1997. He, like the most of the people on this list, was addicted to hormones, steroids, and a variety of other substances that helped him acquire weight. He overwhelmed his opponents and made them appear as if they were children. This made his competitive successes a piece of cake. He, like Trevor Smith, was responsible for his health, and the excessive doses of medicine and increased weight were detrimental to his health. At the age of 44, he died of a heart attack. Until next time.